Well, y'all, welcome back to the channel. This week we have a 7 round mock draft for the Seattle Seahawks. Now, this is a random team, I feel like. So to justify this, the reason I'm doing the Seahawks this week is because I didn't know what team I wanted to do. I kind of wanted to do the Titans because they have the number one overall pick, and every year I do a 7 round mock draft with the team that has the number one overall pick. But I did want to wait until free agency hit for them. And then obviously I didn't want to redo the Steelers or do a first round mock draft. So here we are. We're here with the Seahawks at pick number 18 in the 2025 NFL draft. And we're getting right into it, looking at their roster, and then we'll look at their grades, just like last week with the Steelers mock draft. And then we'll run 2 to 3 mock drafts for the Seahawks. So let's get into it. Looking at the Seahawks roster, so from face value, it's very interesting because this is a team that's been around 500 the past few years. Um, but there's a lot of underlying things with this roster going into this year specifically that we need to talk about. So starting at receivers, obviously, you've got three solid receivers, two really good, and DK Metcalf and Jackson Smith and Jigba, who JSN had a great year this year, a little breakout year. And DK been pretty solid past few years. However, a little injury prone as well. Tyler Lockett is getting older. I think he was drafted in 2015, so I think this is either year 10 or this just past year was year 10 for him. I'm not really sure. Jake Bobo's been there past 2 to 3 years, I think, as well. Just been a small contributor here and there. But the big thing is with their receiver room is DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are both entering the last year of their contracts. And obviously DK is going to be a big, that's going to be a big price tag when it comes to that moment. So I'm interested to see what happens there. I think Tyler Lockett's probably done. Maybe he, plays another year or two on like maybe a team friendly contract, stays a Seahawk for life, or goes somewhere else that is willing to pay him after this year. But he's definitely at towards the end of his career. Um, so the receiver room is interesting because I would say this is a need because if one of DK or JSN goes down, you really only have three real receivers at that. Jalen Darden is a restricted free agent. He's probably that fifth best guy in there. Um, Derek, I guess is how you say that. Derek Young, Cody White, not too familiar with either one of them. And then I didn't know this, but John Reese Plumlee is also on their roster as a receiver, which I think is relatively really funny. Former two-way athlete at UCF, playing baseball and being the quarterback there. So I think that is funny, him being in that room. So I think wide receiver is definitely a need. And I'll get into more of that, when we get back into the mock draft simulator right before we're about to start the draft, talking about needs and stuff. And then on the offensive line, this is the big focus, I think, this year for them, not only in free agency, but also with the draft. At tackles, you've got 2022 first round pick Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas. I always want to call him Abram for some reason, and then I'm not sure why, but Abraham Lucas, Charles Cross, great year this year for the Seahawks. Oh my gosh. So it's looking like maybe they have finally found somebody to play at tackle after kind of bouncing guys around the past few years. Abraham Lucas is serviceable, I would say, but he's not great. He's a guy that I would probably look to replace. I also think that his contract runs out at the end of this season as well, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe he has one more year left in that contract. I can't remember. At center, Olu Oluwatimi out of Michigan, 2023 fifth round pick. He was actually not that bad for them this year. I think he's a guy that you're probably gonna keep there at that position going into next year at least, and hope that maybe you get even more of a jump out of him. And then at the guards, that's the big spot right now for me with this team going into this year's draft. Laken Tomlinson, who was he was like fine, I guess, for them at left guard this year, is a free agent. However, you do have Christian Haynes, a 2024 third round pick from last year out of UConn, a guy that I was decently high on in that draft class. You do have him on the roster, and I would be interested to see maybe if they rock with him next year at left guard and maybe choose not to target that position at all, or maybe draft somebody late, maybe to back him up or maybe beat him out in training camp, have a little positional battle. And then Anthony Bradford has not been good. Satoa, I don't know how to say his name, Lamua, Lamia, maybe. Um, Here, number 63 right here, the backup right guard, also not very good. So I think right guard is definitely the number one glaring need probably for this team going into, free agency and the draft this year. Maybe not the draft, maybe they get somebody during free agency or trade for somebody, so on and so forth. Um, but I think left guard, right tackle are all definitely open positions as of right now, potentially for the Seahawks, along with receivers, or backup receivers, I guess, or receiver depth, maybe, or a future guy, so on and so forth with that. And then I'm going to say the same thing that I just said about wide receivers for tight ends. Noah Fant has not been awful for them. However, he's making a lot of money, and his contract also runs out at the end of this season. So this is a big team going into next year that it's going to be a lot of question marks going into free agency next year at the end of this season. I do think that they could use a backup tight end. AJ Barner, probably not the ideal guy. Um, so I think tight end, at least tight end depth could be a potential target in this year's draft as well for the Seahawks. Then you get the quarterback, which this is also an interesting position for them because Geno Smith has been very, very serviceable over the past 2 years. He's actually been, I would say a top 12 to 15-ish quarterback in the National Football League over the past 3 years. And they gave him the big contract, but guess what? His contract also runs out at the end of this year, and he's going to be, I think he's 35 now, going into 36. So he's another guy that I'm just not sure that you're going to bring back. Maybe another year after this one, but I'm not sure. So I think quarterback is another position that you might have to target. Jaren Hall, Sam Howell, obviously. Jaren Hall has kind of proved that he's not an NFL quarterback. I think he's a free agent after this year, and I think Sam Howell is as well. So I think that's a very interesting position to look at. And if it gets to the trade deadline this year and the Seahawks are only have 2 or 3 wins for some reason, I wonder if Geno Smith could be a trade person that they end up trading, playing Sam Howell the rest of the year, seeing if they can get something out of Sam Howell and in deciding if he's a quarterback of the future. Because he did show a little flash here and there with Washington. But obviously, I don't think Sam Howell, as of right now, is a franchise quarterback in the NFL. However, you never know. And then running back, again, very interesting because Kenneth Walker contract runs out after this year. So, and then Charbonnet, you only have for 1 more year after that anyway. So if you were to let Kenneth Walker go, then you're going to have to do something with Charbonnet the next season, the next off season, right? I think this is a very good 1-2 punch. Kenneth Walker just very injured last year. Really has had a lot of injury problems in his whole career. And I do think that is definitely a concern for me at this point. However, I think when healthy, Kenneth Walker is a very good running back. Honestly, probably a top 10 talent-wise running back in the league when healthy, when fully healthy. So I think running back's also an interesting position for them. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a need draft-wise by any means right now, but I do think it's interesting to monitor how these two guys do this year, and then how they target that going into next offseason with contracts and everything. Then you go to the defensive side of the ball, front seven. They went out, they made moves. They got guys. They got Leonard Williams last year, I think, in a trade, or not this past season, but 2024 season or 2023 season. Sorry. Byron Murphy was their first round pick last year. I don't think he played bad at all. Jaron Reed, who was very good for them this year at defensive tackle, is a free agent right now. Jonathan Hankins, who was a depth guy, even though he wasn't great when playing, but he was a depth guy, veteran. I think that's interesting because he's also set to be a free agent. So I think their interior of their line could use some work potentially, depending on if they lose these guys or not. I think edge rusher, they're fine. Leonard Williams is fine. Nwosu, I think, was fine. Draymond Jones, they're paying a ton of money, and he did not really do anything this year. So I'm interested to see what they do with him. And then Boye Mafe, again, another guy that's set to be a free agent after this upcoming season, who he had a very good year for them as well. So I'm interested what they do with him. Derek Hall hasn't turned out as much as I think they would hope, but I guess a solid backup. Looking at their interior backers, Ernest Jones, Tyrese Knight were the 2 main guys this year, both kind of mid. Ernest Jones set to hit free agency, so I do think that this could be a target for them in the draft as well at interior backer, probably later in the draft, though maybe fourth, fifth, day three guy. Um, and then corner or secondary in general, very interesting. Kobe Bryant makes a move to free safety and plays out of his mind. Also set to be a free agent after the season, by the way. Julian Love, very good year at strong safety for Julian Love. I think they're fine at safety. I don't think Rayshon Jenkins is bad depth necessarily. Kayvon Wallace, not bad depth either. However, he is set to be a free agent as well. Outside corner, though, I do think is a need for them. Trey Brown, Artie Burns, both set to be free agents, both not great anyways. Nehemiah Pritchett, not great rookie year from him. Josh Jobe, also a restricted free agent, not a great year from him as well. Reek Woolen, guess what? Set to be a free agent after the season as well. But he's still been pretty good. And Devon Witherspoon's been pretty good as well at Nickelback. So I do think this is a very interesting roster. I would say this is more of an interesting roster going into next year compared to this year. However, I think the draft is an interesting spot for them this year due to, the few needs that are glaring for them, such as that interior of the line, such as probably a corner, maybe an interior backer, so on and so forth, right, that I talked about. And I will, again, talk about in just a minute. I'll give you an official list once we get into the simulator. However, let's go look at their team this year. Let's go look at their grades on PFF and see what they had going for them this year in this 2024 season in Seattle. We're here on PFF looking at these grades from this season for these guys. Shout out to PFF for having these. I'm saying shout out PFF like I'm not, like paying the subscription or anything. PFF, if anybody there sees this, hey, let me get a free subscription, please, because that's a decent amount of money. Geno Smith, good year, 9th out of 42 quarterbacks. Passing grade was pretty good, running grade decent. Did he catch a pass? Did he catch a pass? How does he have a 58.9 receiving grade? Did he catch a pass? Wow, I got to look at that up later. I just don't think there's much to talk about Geno Smith right now. I just think that the question is what does he do this year? What is his plans for the future and this organization's plan for the future with him? And how do they approach that next year? And is there a way that they can approach it this year? You know what I mean? Can you draft a Will Howard or a Kyle McCord maybe in the 4th or 5th round and let them sit behind him, and maybe that's your guy that you're going to roll with after this season, and you're going to let Geno go, so on and so forth, stuff like that. Receiver, again, like I said, Jake Bobo is just, an average backup guy. JSN, great year. DK Metcalf, solid. Tyler Lockett, I just think he's just progressing further and further, I think, as he gets older, and that makes sense. That's usually what's supposed to happen. So I am interested with that. I just think that you got to kind of look at a wide receiver in this year's draft. I don't know where, but I think you have to look at one. Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, again, I just, hurt season from Kenneth Walker. Zach Charbonnet, not bad filling in or, when he did come in and take snaps from Kenneth Walker. AJ Bourner, maybe, I said maybe he's not the greatest. He almost ranked higher than Noah Fant, actually. Noah Fant, man, just I don't know. He was supposed to be so good, and he's just not. It really sucks. I think tight end has got to be another. I think like receiver. I think you got to try to target it somewhere if you can. But I just don't. I don't know what their picks look like. Actually, I haven't looked at their picks yet. So I think that is going to be interesting when I get in there to look at that because, I'm looking at maybe you need 8 positions in the draft this year. Like I said, Oluwatimi not bad, 64.2 grade. Anthony Bradford awful. Laumia awful. Christian Haynes not good in the 167 snaps he played, which does worry me. I hope that he gets a chance and can turn that around a little bit. Laken Tomlinson not great and a free agent, like I said. Abraham Lucas not great. I guess serviceable. He's serviceable, I guess. Same with Laken Tomlinson. Charles Cross, great year, and been steadily improving. Definitely a big jump this year compared to the last 2, but steadily improving from Charles Cross to being their first round pick, the top 10, I think, 9th overall, right? Yeah, 9th overall in the 2022 draft out of Mississippi State. I couldn't remember if it was Mississippi State or A&M. I do think that offensive line is the biggest need for them. It's gotta be. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Josh Jobe, not great, especially not in coverage. Devon Witherspoon, great run defender. Great run defender, yeah. Pass rush, decent for the 42 snaps that he got logged there. And coverage grade, not bad as well. Nehemiah Pritchett, like I said, rough rookie year. Rough rookie year. Where do they have him lining up at? Outside corner. Okay, cool. Man, rough rookie year. Artie Burns had an 89.6 coverage grade. I am interested. I am very interested in that because if you know, I'm a Steelers fan. If you didn't know that, 2016 first round pick for the Steelers and never turned out there. How did he get an 89.6 coverage? He must have played like trash time or something. Tariq Woolen, I will say, Tariq Woolen has been very highly regarded around the league. And if you look at those grades, you're like, oh man, he didn't have that good of a year, but like that's not even the worst year he's had. But I still think he's a pretty solid outside corner, anyways. Bump Cooper Jr. That's an interesting name. Oregon State. That's a very interesting name. I've never heard of that. Trey Brown, not great. Said to be a free agent, like we talked about. Julian Love, great year. Kayvon Wallace, not good. Rayshon Jenkins, not great. Kobe Bryant, like I said, great year after moving to free safety. Tyrese Knight, Ernest Jones, like I said, mid. Ernest Jones set to be a free agent, like I talked about. Jaron Reed, good year, set to be a free agent. Byron Murphy, not great rookie year. However, he was a rookie. So we're getting the benefit of the doubt. I was high on him coming out of that last year's draft out of Texas. Jonathan Hankins, not great, set to be a free agent, backup anyways. Leonard Williams, 87.1 grade. What a year by Leonard Williams, eh? And then edge rushers, Derek Carr, yeah, not super good. Draymond Jones, like I was talking about, not great. And getting paid a lot of money. Like I think he's like their fourth or fifth highest guy on their salary cap. And then Boye Mafe, great year, 75.2 run grade from him. And Nwosu, 63, I think he did get hurt, I'm pretty sure. But 63 grade when he played, so that's not too bad either. So that is the Seahawks roster. They've got a good punter, they've got a good kicker, if y'all wanted to know. Seahawks, that's their roster, that's their grades. Now let's get into the fun part of this, the actual drafting. We are over here in the mock draft simulator. Like I said, I wasn't sure what picks they had. So looking at those, they do have 18, 50, 82, 136, 172, 184, 211, and 235. So that is a total of eight picks. Sorry, I said seven. 8 picks total. So I guess that is good for them. Here are my official needs currently for the Seattle Seahawks. I would say a mid-round quarterback, probably day 3, as a kind of a safety blanket. I would say right now a depth wide receiver or a guy for the future. I would say at least one guard, if not 2, and maybe a tackle. And then I'd say probably a tight end, maybe a replacement for Noah Fant if you're not planning on re-signing him after this upcoming season, or just a depth guy in general. I'd say an outside corner, maybe for future services if you're not able to bring back Tariq Woolen next year. And plus, I just think they need an outside cornerback in general. And then I also said interior backer, especially if they don't bring Ernest Jones back. I think they definitely need an interior backer. And then I'd say potential like front 7 depth, like IDL edge depth. But I would definitely target corner, the line, before anything else. And then I'd probably say then wide receiver, tight end, interior backer, quarterback. Or sorry, quarterback, interior backer. So let's get into this draft. Let's see what we got going here. Mike Green sitting on the board here at 18 is interesting because I do think he's a good player. I think that's a potential option. James Pierce at 8 to the Panthers. Okay. I have not been on PFF since last week, so I've not seen if they've updated rankings or anything. But it looks like Tyler Booker's still going to be here. I think he's a guy that you should definitely target here. Maybe you want to trade back and get him. Tackle-wise, you still got Kelvin Banks Jr., Gray Zabel, who's probably going to play interior anyways, Josh Connolly Jr., Ariante Ursary, Diamond Jackson, who I would like as probably more an interior guy, Cameron Williams, Wyatt Milam, probably interior guy, Jonas Sabai-Naya, Marcus Bowe are all options, Anthony Bell, and all these options that I think you can look at. Looking BPA, Tyler Warren still here. I do think that could be an option. I really do. However, I think just with the amount of talent on the offensive line here and that being the biggest need, I do think that that's probably the look that you're going to get here. Jahdae Barron, my guy, if you watched my video last week, I like Jahdae Barron as a corner. Trey Amos, Savon Rebel. I think there's some corners on the board that I like as well. Here's what I'm going to do. I haven't done a trade in any of my videos yet this year. I'm going to trade back. I'm going to see if I can move back to like maybe who would come up here from Mike Green? Maybe the Chargers. I'm going to see if I move back here with the Chargers, pick up 22 at 86. And they do accept that. And I'm going to see if I can trade back a few spots. And he's still going to be on the board. Oh, Tyler Warren's still on the board here too, man. My original thinking here was trade back, get Tyler Booker. That's what we're going to do. I think next draft we want Tyler Warren still there at the board. I think you're going to have to take him. I think I'm going to have to take him. But we trade back. We pick up an extra third-round pick in 86. And now we're sitting here, Jihad Campbell and Carson Schweisinger both on the board here, and Jalen Walker, man. I said interior backers a need, and I think the three best interior backers are sitting on the board right here, or potentially the three best. Quarterbacks, I think, like I said, I think that's going to be more of like a day 3 look, maybe late third round. Maybe that's what we go with at 86. Tight ends, Gunnar Helm still here. I do like him. I know a lot of people like Elijah Royal. He had a good Senior Bowl. I know some people like Mason Taylor. I think Daniel Jeremiah had him in the top 50 players. Harold Fannin Jr. is interesting. I don't mind Terrence Ferguson as an athlete. Benjamin Urasek and Jake Brinkenstil also pretty decent as well. Rondé Gadsden, I think, is a very interesting prospect as well later in the draft at tight end. So I think tight end is going to be kind of a skip position right now. I'm going to look at corners. Maxwell Harrison, I think maybe a little early for him, even though we're probably not going to be able to get him at 82 or 86. And looking at tackles. Now, this is going to be an interesting pick here. I'm going to take Donovan Jackson. And the reason being is you might still be able to play him at tackle. I think that is still a possibility. However, I do like him as a guard. So we're going to take Donovan Jackson. We're going to redo that completely redo that interior of that offensive line for Seattle. There's 2 guards right there. Dylan Gabriel sitting on the board. Very, very, very interesting pick. Oh, but Azarea. I think it's like say Azarea Thomas. That's how I've been saying it. Might be pronounced differently. Sitting there is going to have to be the pick for me. No real tackles that I'm interested in here. Chase Lunt, Emory Jones, probably down the board. Johnny Cornelius are more of my options that I'm looking at now for a tackle. Like I said, I don't think Abraham Lucas has to be replaced. I don't necessarily think Christian Haynes has to be replaced, but I do think in this situation they would be. We'll get into that here in a little bit. Tight ends, Elijah Royal, Harold Fannin, Terrence Ferguson. These guys stood on the board. I'm gonna skip out on tight ends. Interior backers, Barrett Carter. Maybe target like Cody Simon down the board, small one to late. Dylan Gabriel sitting there, I think, is just so interesting to me. What receivers are still here? Trey Harris. Oh, Jalen Noel as well. Oh, man, I'm going to take Trey Harris out of Mississippi. I think he, to an extent, fits the build of DK Metcalf almost. So I think that can make sense for them. And then Jackson Dart sitting here. I think that's got to be the pick. I think if you watched my video last week, you know how I feel about Jackson Dart. I think he's going to be a lot higher than a 4th-round pick. So anytime that I'm doing these 7-round mock drafts for a team that potentially needs a quarterback, I'm going to take him if he's sitting there in the 4th round. So we have taken a quarterback, we have taken a receiver, we've taken 2 guards, and we've taken a corner, correct? Tyler Booker, Donovan Jackson probably playing guard. All right, cool. So we've got a quarterback. Okay, all right. So I'm going to look interior backer here, I think. Tight end maybe as well. Oh, man, all of the tight ends that I kind of like are off the board. I'm going to target Rondé Gadsden at some point. I do like him as an athlete. I really do think he could be good. Maybe a double down at corner. What about a true tackle? Emory Jones still sitting here. Johnny Cornelius, I'm going to take him out of Oregon. And then I am going to go to that tight end well now. And I'm going to take a Rondé Gadsden out of Syracuse. Very, very, very interesting prospect. And I'll get into him more in just a little bit. Actually, you know what? No, I want to look at his grades real quick. Yeah, I mean, very good, very solid 3 years. Very solid 3 years. Now, granted, 2023, he only played 2 games, I guess, I would assume due to injury. But he had 934 yards on 73 receptions this year. He is kind of a guy that if you see this right here, he did play 327 slot snaps. Run block is decent, can go up and get the ball. And I just think he's a good receiving tight end. I think he could make sense for them. At pick 184 in the sixth round. I think he makes sense for a lot of teams in the sixth round. At 211, we got the tight end, we got a guard, we got both guards, we got our tackle, we got a receiver, we got a quarterback, we've got a corner. Let's go look at interior backer. Let's see who's here. Maybe like a Jamon Dumas Johnson is there. Smile Munden. I am interested in Smile Munden here. I think. Yeah, we're gonna go with Smile Munden out of Georgia as an interior backer, and then pick 235. I think I'm just gonna go like kind of like a BPA. I probably wouldn't take another quarterback. I don't think I would take a running back either. Maybe like a receiver potentially. Maybe a double down at receiver. Zachary Franklin's still sitting here. That's going to be the pick for me. I do like Zachary Franklin as a late round receiver option for teams that could need one. So, looking at this draft, we did trade back. First trade in a video this year. They're saying I should have taken Jack Sawyer over Tyler Booker. Yeah, all right, sure. Wow, they gave a D- to Tyler Booker at 22. I love it. I love it. I love it. Tyler Booker being mocked in top 10 by some experts, and PFF says D- for Tyler Booker at 22. All right, cool. Wow, grades on these picks not great, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Wow, Seahawks fans, if you're watching this and you agree with me, let me know. If you're watching this and you agree with PFF, also let me know. I would be interested to see what you got to say. We did do the trade back. We traded back with the Chargers in the first round. We gave them 18, and we acquired 22 and 86, in which we took Tyler Booker and Trey Harris. Tyler Booker, I think he slides in, plays guard immediately for you. I actually am not 100% sure if he's a left or a right guard. Donovan Jackson, however, though, was a left guard at Ohio State. Had to kick out to left tackle when Josh Simmons, who is a potential first-round pick and mostly mocked first-round pick right now, got hurt. Didn't play amazingly at left tackle, but didn't play bad. However, I watching his film at guard just really impresses me. So we just completely redid that line there. So now you're probably going to look at a Charles Cross, Tyler Booker, Oluwatimi, Donovan Jackson, and Abraham Lucas line going into next year, blocking for Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, Geno Smith, whoever's playing quarterback, maybe Jackson Dart, who we're going to get to in here in just a minute. Round 3, pick 82, we did take Azariah Thomas. I think that's how you say it, Azariah. I'm going to figure that out after this video. Maybe I've been saying it wrong this whole time. Quarterback of Florida State. This is a guy that's gotten first-round hype. So to get him at 82, I think is a very good pick. Probably going to play him at the opposite corner of Tariq Woolen. And hopefully he ends up being good because maybe Tariq Woolen's not on your team next year. Trey Harris at round 3, pick 86, big body receiver, a guy that going into this draft cycle, going into this college football year, a guy that I was looking at potentially being a first-round pick for me. Very, very injury-ridden career for him at Mississippi. Hopefully he can turn that around because I do think he is a very talented receiver. I'm just interested to see, how the league values him and what the league thinks of him when this draft comes around. Jackson Dart, round 4, pick 136, quarterback out of Mississippi. A guy that I talked about last week. So go watch my video last week if you're new here and you don't know how I feel about Jackson Dart. This is a guy that I think could end up being a second round pick. There is a very small thought in my head that crosses my mind sometimes that Jackson Dart could end up being a first round pick when this draft comes around. And I could very much be wrong on this. But right now I wouldn't have him there. I'd probably say he's a second round guy, second, maybe early third round guy. So to get him at 136, I think is amazing value. And he could end up being your heir apparent to Geno Smith. Round 5, pick 172, you get a Johnny Cornelius tackle out of Oregon. This is more of a depth pick than anything. Really, the rest of these picks are really from Trey Harris on. It's depth picks. These are kind of like 3 starters potentially, and then these are depth guys, future guys that you hope pan out. Johnny Cornelius, a tackle depth guy. Maybe you put him in a position battle with Abraham Lucas. Probably not, but maybe. Round 6, pick 184, tight end out of Syracuse, Oronde Gadsden II. Very, very interesting prospect, like I talked about earlier when I picked him. A guy that I think could end up, rising from a, late day 3 pick like they currently have him slated. Round 6, pick 211, linebacker ILB out of Georgia Small Munden, a guy that maybe, steps in and gets some spot starts this year, depending on what you do with your linebacker room in free agency. A guy that I think does have potential as a late round guy. And really more of a depth piece than anything. Same with Rondé Gadsden. Like I said, same with the Johnny Cornelius. And then Zachary Franklin as well. Round 7, pick 235, wide receiver, Illinois, Zachary Franklin. So let's go back in here. Let's do this one more time, maybe a little faster. 7-round Seahawks, got the sliders all right, and we're starting this draft. We're only going to run 2 today. I know we ran 3 last week with the Steelers. I do think an interesting prospect here is Gray Zabel. So I did say Tyler Warner, if he was on the board this time around, I was going to take him. I think Gray Zabel is very interesting, and I am going to take him here. Great senior week. A guy that is currently listed as a tackle that I think is probably going to end up playing interior. However, I think this is a very good pick for them, for the Seahawks, because it's like, hey, you can play tackle for us, but maybe you can play guard as well. Or somewhere on the interior. So I think it's a good pick for them. Jalen Walker being here, I'm going to have to take him this time, I think. Yeah, I'm going to go Jalen Walker this time around at 50, an ILB out of Georgia. I'm definitely going to have to target corner here. Oh, Cameron Williams still sitting on the board, though. Cameron Williams still sitting on the board, though, is... Now, how funny would it be to take Kobe Bryant? I'm going to see what I can work out here. I can go back 2 picks of the Broncos and pick up. Can I pick up 120 from them? I cannot. What if I give you like 211 actually? No. Okay, I am going to take Cameron Williams as a developmental guy. I'm going to try to pause this. Did he go yet? Did Kobe Bryant go yet? No, he didn't. Did Kobe Bryant go now? He did not. So we are starting day 3. We're going to try to come up here with the Titans. We're going to try to trade them 136 and a future 5th. Oh my gosh. No way. The curse. The start draft button curse that we always incur. Well, just kidding. We were going to try to trade up, take Kobe Bryant out of Kansas, which would have been relatively funny, I feel like. And that would have been crazy because we were going to try to trade up with the Titans, and he went to the Browns at that next pick. Wow. Well, there's that. If you've been around the channel for a little while, you know about the start button curse. It is a very, very unlucky thing that happens here too often, where instead of clicking what I need to click, I accidentally click start draft. Wow, Jackson Dart is still sitting there at 172. We have to do that, right? So that's unfortunate because I did want to try to trade up and get Kobe Bryant out of Kansas and pair him with the other Kobe Bryant in the league. Corner. We still have not taken a corner yet. I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna go get Jalen Smith out of Southern Cal here at 184. And while I was talking about the start draft button curse, we did make some few picks that I will recap here in just a minute. So we did take Gray Zabel, who's a tackle, probably going to play guard. We took Cameron Williams to play tackle potentially, maybe even play guard. Jalen Walker as an interior backer, Jake Bringenstool, tight end, Jackson Dart again, quarterback, Jalen Smith, corner. So we do have that. We did take a corner. We did get an interior backer. We did get a tight end. So I'm going to definitely look wide receiver here. These last 2 picks, I'm going to probably take a wide receiver and then another, maybe a tackle or a guard potentially. No real tackles that interest me too much, honestly. Oh, did not mean to pull up Jared's, however you say this dude's name, page. Looking at interior line, Dylan Fairchild's interesting. I think Dylan Fairchild's very interesting, actually. his first year was not bad in the 18 snaps that he played, but not awful grades the past 2 years. This past year, pretty good pass block grade. Sorry, guys. We're gonna take Dylan Fairchild at 211 out of Georgia. And then last but not least, we are going to go wide receiver. Whoever's here, probably going to be Zachary Franklin. I'm going to assume Zachary Franklin is there. And not many names that interest me after him. Arian Smith is very fast, but drops the ball like a lot. a lot. Moose Muhammad. Interesting. I did not know he declared. I guess he had to, though. Ja'Cory Brooks does kind of interest me a little bit. Bo Collins, Julian Fleming, notable names, but not necessarily interest me. Same with Brew McCoy. I am going to take my guy, Zachary Franklin, out of Illinois. If you watched my video last week, nope, cancel. If you watched my video last week, you know that Zachary Franklin is a guy that's been interesting me in the late rounds, late 7th round as a receiver for teams that could potentially use depth at that position. And Zachary Franklin was a UTSA transfer, if you did not know. So, these picks, we got Gray Zabel, tackle out of North Dakota State, probably going to play interior. Jalen Walker playing an interior backer spot. Maybe you walk him up on the line, playing an edge rusher role as well here and there out of Georgia. Cameron Williams, a tackle out of Texas. I think that was good value at round 3, pick 82. Jake Bringenstool, round 4, 136. Tight end out of Clemson. Jackson Dart, great value at round 5, 172 for Jackson Dart. Jalen Smith, corner out of Southern Cal, round 6, 184. Dylan Fairchild, guard out of Georgia, round 6, 211. And Zachary Franklin, round 7, 235 out of Illinois, the wide receiver. So that is the video for the week. The Seattle Seahawks 7-round mock draft. And it's been a blessing. I appreciate all the views last week on the Steelers video. I think we got over 400 at this very moment. I am recording this at about 5 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, if you might want to know, just in case some interesting news drops before this video drops. I am recording this the day before. 444 views is where we're sitting at right now on the Steelers mock draft, 350 on our first round mock draft from 2 weeks ago. So I really, really appreciate y'all's love and support on those videos because that's been a blessing so far. And I appreciate y'all's support and watching as always. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.